All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
Life, liberty, and the
If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Make America great again.
Come on. All right. Well, good morning and welcome back to the Big Mig Show. Of course, I'm your host, Lance Migliaccio, with my co-host, George Valentine. It's always tip of the spear. It's rise and grind. Of course, you know how we do it. Our plan is to educate and unify the country one episode at a time. And nobody's safe. We're going to go after both sides of the aisle. At the end of the day, we're trying to bring you the domestic and international news that matters. And if you're looking to get lied to, well, you picked the wrong spot. This isn't mainstream media. We're going to bring the rain and the pain, no matter what the topic is. Bring you top guests. If you love the show, you know the drill. Hit the thumbs up, the comment, the share, the subscribe. If you can do the paid subscription, it's $5 a month. It's a great way to support the show. Rumble Rant tips, always appreciated. And of course, we've got the Rumble wallet. If you want to tip George a couple of Bitcoin, he won't be unhappy. I know that. He's still trying to accumulate Bitcoin. I can't blame him. We still wonder what's going to happen. Doesn't seem like they can pass.
I mean, you'll save money because Bitcoin is down from when I was asking for it. It was like over 100,000. Now it's like 60.
It's a savings if they give you 2 or 3 today. Look at how much money they're saving. If they'd done it a year ago, it would have been like 100,000. All right. Of course, we love our sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor the Big Mig Show, hit us up over at info@thebigmig.com. We love our gold and silver. Of course, this is the Prepper Bar, the 62.2 gram Prepper Bar, perforated and very easily broken down to your choice of 3 separate denominations, which of course allows it. If you see when I tilt the bar, there's a small, a medium, and large. Fits a multitude of needs. Doesn't matter whether it's asset protection from inflation, diversification, or economic turmoil. It's a perfect gift. Nobody doesn't like precious metal, especially at these prices. Doesn't matter, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, grandchildren. Grab a few of the silver Prepper bars, maybe stick it in a drawer and with some bows in case you do what I do occasionally where you forget somebody's special event or special birthday. You can just reach into the drawer, slap on a bow, and you've got the perfect gift to hand them. Of course, these are exclusively mined and minted in the great US of A. They're always selling out fast. They just got a big restock over at Genesis Gold, so they got plenty. And don't forget that asset report matters. A lot of counterfeit gold coming out of India and China right now. Counterfeit gold and silver. You can go read the articles online. Head over to genesisgoldgroup.com. That's right, genesisgoldgroup.com. Or you can call them at 888-526-7154, 888-526-7154. Ask for Keith Height. If you'd like to do IRA, 401k, or large bulk purchases, they can help you with all that, get discounts on large bulk. They have access to large quantities of gold and silver, so easy to do. Ask for Keith Height. Tell him the Big Mig Show sent you.
Break me off a piece of that Prepper Bar.
Right, George's going to get a little music in there. Listen, we got a great guest today. We've had her on the show before. Here's somebody that's fighting medical tyranny on a daily basis. If you are not following her on social media, I think you're making a tremendous mistake. We cover a lot of topics on this show. And, medical's been one of those things that I don't like the, medical industrial complex. I don't like the way they force feed us what basically treating the symptoms and not treating the disease. There's lots of alternative remedies. Dr. Mary Ali Bowden has been one of those people that I've always respected. And I watch her post constantly because she puts out the real information, and she's never been a yes man, or a yes woman, I should say. She's never been one of those ones that just went along with it because that's what they told her to do. And that's, to me, is the kind of doctor you want. I think we're stuck in a situation where narrative control continues to go on, and let's face it, to have somebody that doesn't go along with that you can trust, not easy to find. That's why I suggest you follow her. But she's a board certified, and I don't even think I'm going to even try to pronounce this. I'm going to let her do it. She's an ENT, but the longer version of it, I think I would butcher. Sleep medicine specialist and author. She's based in Houston, Texas. She founded the direct pay practice Breathe Med, focused on sinus, sleep, and allergy disorders. She earned a BA in psychology, magna cum laude from the University of Northern Carolina at Chapel Hill, on MD summa cum laude from the Medical College of Georgia. Completed surgical internship and early residency training at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. and finished her residency at Stanford University Medical Center. She's board certified by the American Board in Sleep Medicine and a mother of 4. I don't know how she gets it all in. I've got to tell you, she's super busy. I'm thankful that she actually took this interview today because she's got a lot going on. She just wrote a great book. We're going to talk about it. Dangerous Misinformation. Putting her money where her mouth is. Let's bring her in, Joyce.
Wait, so you're talking about she's a certified otolaryngologist? I don't know if I pronounce it right, but I'm taking a shot.
But we're going to let her.
We're going to let her see.
A couple guys from New York, we do butcher our vocabulary.
All right,
let's bring her
welcome to the Big Mig Show, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back.
All right, how do you pronounce that word? Let's
get that out of the way.
Otolaryngology. Otolaryngology.
Got it. All right. Well, I would have got it wrong.
Wait,
there's no doubt about it.
Wait, say it again.
It's 4 syllables. Otolaryngology. Otolaryngology.
Oh, it says gologist. That's why on our paperwork here.
Well, that's what she is. She's a gologist.
Yeah.
Gology is the actual practice itself.
Wait, I was pretty close, man. Come on.
Well, Doc, you've been busy as hell since the last time we had you on. I've been watching all your posts. You're super active on social media, and you've been super busy. Maybe catch us up. What have you been doing, maybe over the last couple of months? I know you've worked on a lot. You've got this new book out. I want to talk about that. And let's just dig right in. There's no reason to mess around here. Let's get to it.
Yeah. Well, the book is, I don't know if you've ever written a book, but it is.
I have. It's a pain in the butt. I've written 2 books. I've actually written more books, but I'm in the middle of publishing. But are you self-publishing? Let me ask you that.
No, I actually found an agent and a publisher, which is kind of shocking, but
it is. I'm surprised.
You're right.
I'm surprised with the topics because you're that's one thing about you. And I want to say to the audience, the reason I tell you to follow her, and I don't tell you to follow people all the time. You guys know that. We have guests on the show for a reason. She puts her money where her mouth is. She doesn't take any shit from anybody. She's thrown it down since the very beginning, got attacked during the COVID-19 pandemic, just like we did for putting out real information. We put on all the top guests and we were hammered for it, suspended and kicked off of YouTube and you name it. They tried to stop us. But without even having read this book yet, I'm going to get a copy of it. I recommend you guys do too, because there's no doubt that if she wrote a book, it's the real shit. But writing a book is no joke. I have to tell you that I self-published. So getting the ISBN number and doing this and doing that, and I'm getting ready to do the next level of publishing on another platform. But it's a pain in the butt. It's a lot of work, especially the editing.
Yeah, it's just, because you start it you're very ambitious when you start it and then trying to finish it. You're just like, get me through this. But mine is pretty short. I'll say that. And I've been told it's an easy read. It's more like drama. It goes into the nitty gritty. So I do a lot of these emails, a lot of these interviews, but it's hard to get into the details. So this goes into the details and names everybody and sort of the saga of what I went through.
You did get hammered. You got, just hammered and hammered. Didn't they even try to take your medical license at one point?
Well, I'm still fighting the medical board. In fact, there's a hearing on Monday regarding it. And it's been 5 years
in
now.
Texas, you're still fighting it?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You would think that they would drop it based on all the Fauci drops, based on the fact that, what's his name, Marino, just got, just had to commit, plead guilty. We've seen the emails. We've seen them hiding all the information, the whole lab leak attacks and all the rest of it. You would think that for what they went after you for at this point, they'd say, you know what, Mary was right. Let's just let this go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't given them the opportunity to save face. My dad's like, if you don't let them save face, they're not going to back down. And I just keep hammering at them very publicly. And I think that's probably why they won't back down. But I've got Ken Paxton on my side right now. He was supposed to represent them against me and he refused. And the hearing on Monday is basically the medical board is telling Ken Paxton he has to represent them. And so that will be the topic of the hearing to see whether he's forced to represent medical board or if he's allowed to represent me.
Wait, medical board wants Paxton to represent him?
Well, normally Paxton would, because it's a state agency where, up until now it was in the administrative system and Paxton wasn't really he wasn't involved, but now it's in the state district and he would normally represent because it's a state agency. Mm-hmm. But he said, no, I'm not going to. He
follows me on X. I should DM him and say, listen, take the case, but just fumble it and let her win or whatever. Drop it. There you go.
You know, but the truth is, of course, the medical board, they want him because they're hoping that he wouldn't do something like that. But at the end of the day, I don't know how you can ethically, you take an oath when you're of course, you're an attorney. And I don't know how you can ethically represent something when you know it isn't true, right? Because the medical board is being stubborn. At this point, they'd have to be complete jackasses to not recognize what happened during COVID. I mean, listen, it was a pandemic. I don't care what anybody tells me at this point. And even though I've been saying it the whole time, we had all the experts on, we had everybody that we could think of on our show because we were worried about our audience. We didn't want our audience to run out and get the jab. I didn't get it. George didn't get it. I had my mom convinced not to get the jab. And of course, my sister went into overdrive. Thank God I stopped her from getting any of the boosters. She didn't have any medical consequences. Who knows if she even got a real batch? I'm still wondering what batches were what. Mm-hmm. She didn't take Johnson. She didn't take the Pfizer. She took the Johnson & Johnson, but she hasn't had any consequences, thankfully. And I was able to convince her, don't do the rest of it by providing her information that I'd gotten from people like you and other people. She read it and she said, yeah, this looks questionable. I said, well, that's a nice way to say it. But it's funny, you know, with the truth tellers like you and the amount of attacks, you know, Stella Emanuel and so many others, just ridiculous. And what a waste of time and money when it's obvious now. You would think the medical board could say, look, we didn't do it right. And the silent resistance doctors, let's talk about that a little bit because you've covered that quite a bit. You know, you were one of them. And so were many others because they recognized that this experimental vaccine was dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I saw everything firsthand. In the intro, you said I never went along. Well, I can't say that. I mean, prior to the pandemic, I was a compliant little doctor and I got all my vaccines. I got a flu shot every year and I wasn't the rebel that I am now, but I just saw everything firsthand. I mean, and so I don't see how, I mean, I know a lot of other doctors saw things firsthand, but just went along, which is bizarre to me.
You know, we got suspended for putting CDC and VAERS information in the show. That's why they finally suspended us over at YouTube. We had about 30,000 subscribers and we haven't gotten back up to that. They let us reopen our account, but they wouldn't give us the old account just by putting up the CDC and VAERS information, which wasn't disinformation as far as I could tell, but you know, the liberal controlees that are on platforms. That's why they go after people. You know, that was
my final blow on X as well, posting about VAERS, and I was kicked off for 5 months.
Ours was election interference. I got suspended 1 minute and 46 seconds after Donald Trump because I was watching the clock. I was wondering how long it would take to get to me. And then George was shortly thereafter. And it was all, I think for us, it was a combination of the COVID information that we were bringing on lots of guests. You know that we had on Peter McCullough and Stella Emanuel and Judy Mikovits and this one. We just had everybody on. And I just said, look, don't listen to us. I'm not a medical expert. I'm not putting out medical advice. Here's the experts. And they're talking about statistically things that they've seen or found. But then a combination of that and, of course, election interference. We put out a lot of stuff about the Italy Gate attack. Where they electronically switch votes, Skytel, Smartmatic, and Dominion were all involved. And that was the end of it. They suspended us, and then that was it. And they never talk about the damage that caused, you know, growth of shows or people personally. And I know you, reputationally, they just tried to string you out. They tried to do as much as they could online, you know. And I think that's the hard part. How do you ever even if you, when you beat them in Texas, and I imagine you will, and I've got my fingers crossed for you because I can't imagine how they can win with the incredible amount of information's out.
Yeah.
You know, how do they fix the damage? They would owe you millions and millions and millions of dollars for reputational damage.
And I did sue Methodists for defamation because they called me dangerous. I mean, that's the title of my book is Dangerous Misinformation because they proclaimed to the world that I was dangerous. And unfortunately, you know, my attorney made a fatal error in the case. He didn't have me sign the affidavit. He didn't put, I think it was my birth date on there, and he didn't correct it when it was brought to his attention. And then he had a stroke. And so I just folded. I ended up paying Houston Methodist $166,000 to cover their legal fees for the lawsuit. But
it's unbelievable, right? And
you should get that money from your lawyer for botching it.
Well, he's in a nursing home. He's incapacitated. Like he had a horrible stroke, and he didn't have any partners or anything like that. So
you don't have no money, insurance. Malpractice
no,
insurance?
for a brief, no, he does not have malpractice insurance. So
How do you not have malpractice insurance as an attorney? That's unbelievable. I'm sorry to hear that. Nobody deserves that. And that's the thing about it, right? That I said this before and I'll say it again. What I don't like about what's going on with the administration is I voted for, transparency, accountability, and consequences. And as of so far, I haven't seen any of that. I've talked about it for the midterms and otherwise. But let's go talk more about medical here. I don't want to digress too much because I know you're always pressed for time. Let's talk about Moderna. I know you've been really putting out a lot of stuff on them as of late.
yeah, well, this new vaccine that's supposed to cure cancer is a total bunch of hype, and I'm just shocked at the reaction that their stock price went up, and everybody's just hooray for Moderna without taking into account what happened during the pandemic. I mean, they put out a press release November 2020 stating that their vaccine would decrease transmission by 94.5%. That was their press release. And we're seeing the same thing with this cancer vaccine. There's no data. It'd be one thing if they showed us their data, but you can't find it. It's not, I looked yesterday on several sites, could not find any data. We just have to take their word for it. Well, look what happened when we took their word for it during the pandemic. So yeah. I just need to fight this.
Don't they have to release data at some point for approvals and everything to?
Yeah, but what they're doing is they're basically inflating the stock price. They're over-promising. I mean, if they had the data, if they had great data, they would have shared it. I mean, right?
So I have a question because Russia has a cancer vaccine that's been out. Have you gotten it? Were you able to get any data on that or anything?
No, I need to look at that, but yeah, I don't know. Do you know the stats on that?
No, we don't. They came out with the announcement, but I have to be honest, and I have a different probably opinion of Putin than maybe everybody else does. I honestly think that if the Congress would get out of the way with all the Russia garbage and all the attacks on Trump, I think we have an opportunity to have a better relationship with Russia than we've ever had because of the relationship between the mutual respect between Donald Trump and Putin. And I think the same thing goes for North Korea. Not that I'm a fan of North Korea and their policies and what they've been doing, but I think there's an opportunity to change things there. I don't think you could ever change things with China, but I think in the case of Russia, if they put out information that they have a cancer vaccine, they don't have the same problem with, big pharma over there in the medical industry.
I just looked up some stats I can give to you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
So
Please.
Initial participants, they had 48 volunteers in early stage testing. Tumor reduction metrics. Russian health officials reported 60 to 80% reduction in tumor size or growth suppression in fast growing or targeted tumors. Side effects, developers report minimal adverse side effects. Primarily limited to mild fever and brief fatigue with no severe systematic toxicity. Let me see.
What kind of tumors?
Doesn't say in this.
Does it say how long the follow-up was?
No, I just did like a brief thing to look. Probably, if I did a deep dive, you probably get it, but
it'd be interesting to know more about that, I'm sure. But of course, like many medicines that are out there, and we know about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and mebendazole. There's been kind of a underground thing that you see online where people have, cured stage 4 cancer. Even, Roger Stone's wife, and he's allowed me to always talk about it. She had stage 4 breast cancer. And of course, she's in full remission and has been for a long time following specific protocols. There's lots of individuals that put the protocols out. It's not medical advice, but, there's a clinic that's a new sponsor of a show called Oasis, and we'll be starting next month with them. And I specifically made a deal with them because I felt like it was a service that people should know about. They're having amazing results in their their oncology clinic down in Mexico. And it's a high-end clinic. When people hear Mexico and they think of Tijuana, it's a high-end medical facility with doctors with 30, 40 years, oncologists on staff. They've been getting incredible results with alternative medicine. And I think that that's the tough part because on top of this, you're constantly fighting mainstream media. Now you've seen, so many of these CNN and they talk about studies, but they never put the information out. You've been covering that also, that they support the role of journalists in verifying pharmaceutical claims with literally no evidence. And they get out there and start hyping it up. Let's talk about that for a minute, because you've been going after them, for forever now, I think.
Well, like I said, I mean, Moderna just put out a press release, and you can frame the data to make it sound better than it actually is, which is, we learned this during when they were reporting the efficacy of the COVID shot, the difference between relative risk reduction versus absolute risk reduction. So if you go down from, 2 people got COVID who did not get the shot to 1 person got COVID, well, that's a 50% risk reduction, right? And that sounds wonderful, but when you look at the actual numbers, it's really, out of 2,000 patients, 1 person got COVID and 2 people got COVID. It's really not much to talk about. So you can frame the data to make it sound good, and I suspect that's what Moderna has done, which is why we need to see a little bit more than what they put out there. They really, it was very vague, and people, unfortunately, are running with it. Hey, I hope it does work, but I just think we need to have some healthy skepticism. We need to learn from what just happened during the pandemic and not take what they say at face value.
Yeah, I think people should do the research. Yeah, George, I'm sorry.
No. I mean, their last big vaccine, it'll prevent the spread of COVID. Meanwhile, it didn't do shit, but I want to see how this administration, if they do get the information, how they handle it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Big Pharma, one of the most powerful, the medical industry, 2 of the most powerful lobbyist consortiums in Washington, D.C. I've said it very often that I want congressional members to wear NASCAR jackets, and their biggest donations, they have to wear a patch. So if you've got if Pfizer's one of your biggest donors, they got to wear it right on the front, and they have to give a disclaimer that they received money from Pfizer if they're going to start talking about Moderna or Pfizer. Did they get money from them? But we don't get that kind of transparency. Or they go into Congress, and because of the speech and debate clause, they say things in there they're legally protected. They can legally lie in Congress. Everybody knows about the speech and debate clause. It's helpful in some ways and horrendous in others. But lately, they've been pushing. Whenever I go to the doctor, because I've had some stuff going on with my shoulder, and they always say to me, "Hey, your flu vaccine is out of," because I haven't taken any flu vaccines in years and years now, and now they're pumping this new, like a combo. You get the mRNA combo. Yeah, get this and this and this and this and this. And I feel like they're peddling wares. How do you feel about that? These new combo shots? Because I think it's even worse. Now they're giving you everything all at once. So I don't even know if you could tell what screwed you up if you have an adverse reaction.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a problem with the childhood vaccines too. They give multiple shots in one day, and it's a lot on your immune system. A lot of people will get sick after the flu shot, and it's not because they're not giving you the live flu virus, but they're challenging your immune system. And if you're already fighting some kind of bug, and then you get this on top of it, it can overload your immune system, and then you get sick. Now, this new flu shot came out that's mRNA. It's going to be pushed on people who are 50 and older, and that everybody needs to have a heads up and watch out for that, because I guarantee you they're just going to tell you it's the flu shot. They're not going to say, it's the mRNA flu shot. It's a big difference.
But I said this, they still got to be careful because they might sneak in the COVID vaccine in with the flu shot. I've never taken a flu shot in my life.
Impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive. I did take it the first couple of years, and then I thought it was garbage because I really didn't get the flu an awful lot. So I thought, I don't need this thing. And I stopped, but I wish I'd never taken it at all. There's many vaccines over the years. I mean, my original childhood vaccines back when I was a child, I think we only got 8 or 10 or 11 total vaccines. I think it was mumps and polio and again, as a kid, you get all those. There wasn't any real choice. Your parents took you and you got the shots. I look back now. I wonder how many of them were really necessary. Did they really help me? I'm not saying that vaccines. There aren't some vaccines out there, and none of this that I'm saying, because I'm not a medical expert. I only know what I can only parrot what I've read and heard from professionals. What do you think about this? The administration may, RFK, I feel in some ways, every time he's in front of Congress, they take advantage of his speech impediment, but he's surrounded himself with a lot of people, Dr. Oz, Callie Means, and others. What do you think? They just made this move on childhood vaccines. How did you feel about that when that announcement came out?
Yeah, I worry a little bit that it's going to create a backlash because, when Trump came out and said that hydroxychloroquine could be a great game changer for COVID, there was severe backlash. The Texas State Board of Pharmacy actually prohibited us from prescribing hydroxychloroquine the very next day after he said that. So I'm a little worried that medical establishment is going to become more militant on vaccines after this executive order. On the other hand, where I don't think he's not going to change anything on the schedule by what he did, but it will probably prompt mothers to look into things more closely. It's just raising awareness and maybe shifting the Overton window a bit.
Well, we have a problem because big pharma, of course, the money is in treating the symptoms, not treating the disease. They love to pump out their products. They've always got a new product and a new hype because they're always trying to inflate their stock prices. That's the constant. And then they pass through on the pricing. We've been getting gouged for decades here on the R&D. They claim that the U.S. has to pay the R&D, and that's why so many people have even, have gone to buying, prescriptions out of the country because they can save tremendous amounts of money. We saw how they screwed everybody over on insulin for years and years and years, although I know there's been some pullback on the insulin now. My mom has got type 2 diabetes, and she deals with that. But I've been able to manage a lot of it through nutrition and lots of other things. I've cut her insulin use probably down to a third of what she was originally prescribed, and her numbers are great when it comes to testing her blood sugar. And she's lost weight and she feels better. I've noticed things connected to diabetes that, like incontinence and other things that are triggered by that, only because firsthand I had no experience. I actually put together a caregiver's book based on not experience, not medical information that I'm going to be coming out with, just on my experience with my own mom and how the medical industry didn't give me any advice on how to let her, eat. And I've changed her eating. She was doing a lot of simple sugars and carbohydrates. And of course that was inflating because she wasn't preparing her own food. My mom's 93. She lives with me now. I actually moved her in because of all this, and I take care of her. And the things I learned through this process that I wasn't provided, because I had to really dig in, because I was like, what? How many different kinds of insulin? There's short term, there's long term, there's long lat. And then, they wanted to just stack all of it. Give her this shot, and then give her this, and then give her this. And I was like, this can't be right. I mean, I'm just pumping her full of stuff when she first got here. So I've been pretty successful on that. Even oddly enough, because of her diet, her leukemia numbers have drastically changed to the point that she hasn't had to have any further treatment for her leukemia. She's been in remission now for 11 years based on a lot of the things I did. And well, let's talk about Mayha. I thought, well, and I guess I thought wrong. I hope for the best, but expect the worst. I thought that Mayha was really going to expose the mRNA for what it was. And even though they've done some stuff, did they really document adequately, the concerns over mRNA? Do you feel like they could have done? I feel like they could have done a lot more than they've done.
Hold on. Let me ask this question for some of you, and it's Maha, Lance, not Mayha. What is so bad about just the mRNA technology? Explain to everybody if it's bad.
Yeah, well, it enters your cells and it causes your cells to produce spike protein, which is the most toxic part of the virus. It's inflammatory. It causes microclotting. And there's no off switch. And they promised us it would stay in the arm. Well, we know it doesn't stay in the arm. It goes in the brain, goes into the reproductive organs. To this day, I continue to see new patients whose lives have been completely destroyed by these shots, previously healthy, younger people that, just completely disabled from the health problems they've suffered from these shots. I've never seen anything like it with any other product on the market. So unfortunately, we think that, and we don't think this is everybody that got the shot. We think maybe about 7% of the people. And I think it's Lance referred, I think a lot of them were duds because the product required very stringent refrigeration. You had to have a special type of freezer. And if it was left out at room temperature, then I think it would become inert. So I think that probably saved a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, the damage is bad. And in terms of Maha, Maha hasn't done anything. They have two reports that are published on the White House website. Zero mention of mRNA. And, Kennedy was very much, Kennedy rose to power because of the pandemic. That's how he became known, because he stood up to all of it. Unfortunately, Callie Means came along and diverted him. Callie Means convinced him to drop out of the race and join Trump. And Callie Means, whom I debated him on the Danny Jones podcast about this. He will not call for the COVID shots to be pulled off the market. He is not on our team. His focus is food and cleaning up the food supply, which I agree with.
Yeah.
But we can, at the same time, also address the biggest public health crisis in our country and an issue that directly impacted every single American, and yet has been completely swept under the rug. Kennedy's not talking about it. And I blame Callie Means and I blame Maha. I think Maha is not what people think it is. And the medical freedom movement got pushed aside. It's
disappointing because I was actually happy when RFK Jr. jumped on Team Trump, because again, I believed, we're going to drain the swamp. And I thought that included the medical industry. I thought we were going to find a massive amount of deep state rest. We still haven't seen any of that, although they did seize Eric Swalwell's electronic devices as he was flying. They did grab all his stuff. Is he going to face some consequences for, all his interaction with a Chinese spy? I don't know. There's a lot of information that's come out, but they keep putting out information. They keep exposing things, but then I don't see the acts of justice. But if it was you, just like they're doing to you still now, or if it was George or myself, you can guarantee they'd be kicking in my front door with flashbangs right now, kicking my dogs, and I'd be on the ground, probably tasered because of my background. They'd want to incapacitate me. So that's the tough part, right? We aren't seeing what we thought. And when I look at one of the things that I really informed consent, they put that massive, I got copies of them back then, and the massive, some of them were blank, some of them had massive lists. They didn't really give anybody informed consent. They didn't really explain that they had information to prove that these vaccines were potentially dangerous. They didn't tell anybody. What a failure. And do you see? I don't understand. Informed consent is supposed to be there for people to make a competent decision. You're supposed to get both sides of the fence. They're supposed to warn you. And they didn't do any of that. The hospitals made a massive amount of money. They didn't tell anybody about remdesivir. On this show, we call it Run Death is Near. What do you think about that informed consent failure? Because it seems just massive. And I don't understand. They seem protected under this experimental vaccine. But what about, and let me add one more thing to it. I know I'm loading you with a bunch of things to respond to, but turbo cancer. I have a lot of doctors around the country that I'm friends with, and they're telling me they're seeing this turbo cancer for the very first time, and it's crazy. And, I'm wondering, are they ever going to acknowledge that this is a problem?
Yeah. Well, the informed consent issue, a lot of Republicans will celebrate the fact that, we no longer have mandates. The COVID shot is a choice. Well, no one is getting informed consent with these COVID shots, even now. So they're not being told that, you could die. You're not being told that, well, if there is a complication, you're completely out of luck. The government won't do anything for you, and you can't sue the vaccine manufacturer. And there's still, 7 million children have gotten the COVID shot this year under Trump. And pregnant women are still getting these COVID shots. So I know to us, it seems obvious. And we just made that
pregnancy link in the news that clearly pregnant women shouldn't be
that's their choice.
Well,
if they don't watch shows like us and get the real information, I can't,
Well, it's obvious to us, but if you're not on Rumble or X, I know. When you're a young mother, I didn't know what was going on in the world. I was just in survival mode. I wasn't educating myself. So I don't think eliminating mandates is enough at all. We need to take the product off the market. There's no upside to it. There's no threat of COVID to begin with. I can't even remember the last time I saw a COVID patient that I was worried about. And even if you do get COVID, we have great treatment available. So And then the turbo cancer, yeah, I'm hearing a lot from cancer doctors as well. The CDC is hiding the data. So the CDC last updated in 2023, it did show a significant uptick in colorectal cancer and non-malignant brain cancers, brain tumors in patients under 50 that came on. The timing was after the COVID shot. But that's the only data we have thus far. So, we can just, the fact that they're not sharing the data is telling.
Didn't Kennedy just speak out, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, about run death is near?
Well, I posted something, but that was an old speech he gave. Maybe that's what you're thinking of. I don't think he did it recently, but
I haven't seen that. But I don't know that I keep close enough track on every single piece. There's so much information, and I try to look at a lot of the alternative, discussions because, the alternative medicine side of this, and again, this isn't medical information, so don't anybody jump out of the woodwork on me. The point is you have to educate yourself beyond what you're being told. I don't care what the topic is. I don't care if it's elections. I don't care if it's the administration. You have to think nowadays because profit has been king for a long time. I know we've got to take a short break here. When we come back, I want to dig right back into vaccine injury tracking and why the tracking isn't being done on these vaccine injuries, why the government isn't making it more obvious or at least putting the information out. Now, you guys know what to do on the break. Take the live link, share it far and wide. We'll be right back with Dr. Bowden. And we're going to talk about the injury tracking and why maybe it isn't being done. There are some places you can look, and we want to provide that info. Stay tuned. The Big Mig Show will be right back.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA, the future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit BlockTrustIRA.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars, your ultimate hedge against political instability and economic turmoil. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar, crafted from 0.999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. This tangible, divisible asset can come in handy even in the toughest of times. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. When facing inflation, currency devaluation, and financial meltdown, Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Secure your future today with the exclusive Silver Prepper Bar, the only silver bar on the market divisible into 3 different size pieces for maximum utility, all while fitting in your wallet. Don't leave your future to chance. Order your Silver Prepper Bars now at prepperbar.com. Silver Prepper Bars, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Order now.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on earth, these canine units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit warriordogfoundation.org.
All right, welcome back to the Big Mig Show. Here with your host, Lance Migliaccio, George Ballantine, and our guest, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. So don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, like, follow, share, and subscribe. We need subscribers. We need to build it up. If you can do the subscription for $5 a month, we truly appreciate it. Any and all support, any support, we truly appreciate. If you're out there watching or listening, come join the chat. Give you a shout out. If you have questions for the Dr. Bowden, put them in the chat. I'll try to get them to her, but make sure they're good questions. All right, what were we talking about? Vaccine, was it tracking we're talking about?
Yeah, well, the fact that we don't really have good governmental or even good medical industry vaccine injury tracking. I know there's one site, React 19, but do you feel like the lack of tracking, Mary, is intentional? Because I feel like it's intentional. They now see that there's a lot of consequences. Tons of people online talking about how their lives have just been ruined, deaths in their family because of it, children. I just feel like this tracking should be so, I'm not going to say it's simple, but I feel like it's necessary, and yet we don't have it.
Yeah. Well, VAERS is how is a system that is supposed to track it. I actually submitted a report to VAERS yesterday, so I'm still reporting injuries to VAERS 5 years later. Yeah. I haven't checked their website recently to see how up to date they are in their reporting. There is a website you can go to if you were injured and you told the person, one of your providers, that you were injured, and they are legally obligated to report to VAERS. If they gave you the shot and then you go back and you tell them that you had some issues with it, they are legally obligated to report it to VAERS. We're looking at a way you could potentially sue them if they didn't, but there's a website called checkvaers. I think it's org, checkvaers.org or .com, where you can look up and see if your injury was reported. React 19, I don't know that they actually track with numbers, but they have a database of peer-reviewed published studies showing adverse reactions to the COVID shots. And the last time I checked, they had 4,551 articles on their website, all documenting harms from these shots. So everybody that says that we don't have data is wrong. We have an enormous amount of data. We just don't have anybody in authority who will actually acknowledge it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and the amount of lies, because it's even now when you go back and you can review what mainstream media said a lot, the public narrative. How much do you think behind the scenes, because we've seen so much stuff, right? We've seen our intelligence agencies hiding information about foreign and domestic election interference. How much of this do you think a lot of this behind the scenes, there's this massive control apparatus that maybe we're not aware of that's trying to, continue to perpetuate the lies as kind of a cover up or provide contradictory, official statements and that sort of thing? Do you feel like it's a kind of a fomented plot? Do you feel like we're still dealing with something that's much bigger than what we see?
Yeah, well, I think the key word is propaganda. And we saw that in full force during the pandemic. And the government actually spent $11.5 billion to brainwash us. It was called the COVID-19 Community Core. And they doled out money to thousands of influencers, church groups, sports leagues, you name it. The web is so tangled, it's untraceable at this point in terms of finding out where all this money went. But that was all propaganda to convince us that the shot was safe and effective and try to get a shot in every arm. I mean, the ivermectin takedown, that was propaganda, where the FDA came out and put the horse tweet. And we actually sued the FDA.
Joe Rogan attack. Yeah.
We sued them over that and won. And they had to take that down. They had to take down their horse tweet. Unfortunately, it hasn't really done anything because the brand still sticks with ivermectin. They're still calling it horse paste. I think the FDA should come out and correct the record and educate the public on ivermectin, and they should make it over the counter. 6 states have made it over the counter, but it's still really hard to find because pharmacists won't do it. Even though the government allows them to do it, they won't do it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Ivermectin or
ivermectin?
Ivermectin.
You have to go to the compound pharmacies.
Right. And, in 6 states, you are technically allowed to go to the pharmacist, ask for ivermectin, and get it without a doctor's prescription. But in Texas is one of them. But it's I can only think of one pharmacy in the fourth largest city in the country that is doing this in Houston. So it's the FDA, our best bet is that the FDA would make it over the counter because people are going to the feed store. I did a poll on Twitter, and about 25,000 people responded asking, where do you source your ivermectin? And 52% of people responded the feed store. So this is America. We shouldn't have to go to the feed store to get our medication. It's over the counter in many countries. The FDA should make this happen.
Yeah. And it's funny that so many people have gone to the feed store for DMSO as an example and other products because they're trying to self-treat, and many of them effectively self-treating because they can't get their doctor to comply. Even when they say, I'd like to have some ivermectin on hand, and the doctor said, no, I don't prescribe that. Yeah. Let's talk about that because, of course, free speech and should be there. You should have the right as a doctor to make medical decisions for patients. It shouldn't be controlled by the pharmacist saying yes or no. What about the professional consequences? Is there still this major attack on doctors that's limiting their free speech and kind of stopping them from, discussing so many of the topics that they'd like to make the discussion? But because I know even in my discussions with my mother's doctors, because she goes more often than I do, she has to go for oncology checkups every 4. And I love her oncologist. She's like, wow, the numbers are amazing. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But what do you feel about the professional consequences? You're still dealing with it. How many doctors across the country are still dealing with this, pressure that they can't be doctors? They can't be the experts that they are at this point. They can't take the knowledge of these adverse reactions and apply it in their daily practice. How much of that is still going on?
That's a good question. One of my colleagues in Houston actually just got a notice from the medical board. I don't know the full details, but it sounded bogus. I will say there's a lawsuit that I'm part of where we're suing medical boards and the Federation of State Medical Boards over this issue, over free speech. It's 6 of us, 5 doctors and a nonprofit are suing, I think it's 6 state medical boards. And then the Federation of State Medical Boards is this umbrella organization. It's a nonprofit that somehow has jurisdiction over all the medical boards. And they issued a proclamation to all the medical boards. This was in the fall of 2021, telling them to go after doctors for spreading misinformation. And soon after, a slew of doctors across the country, myself being one of them, received investigation notices from our medical boards. And this is the fall of 2021. This was right when they mandated the shots. This was right after they went after ivermectin. It was all very orchestrated. So we are suing them over free speech. 2 of the doctors in my lawsuit lost their licenses. And one of them just gave up his license, and I'm still fighting for mine. So I think we've made some headway. I think you're allowed to say a lot more than you used to. I'm much more outspoken than I was back in 2021. But, I got in trouble for saying vaccine mandates are wrong and ivermectin works. That's what they got very upset about with me. And now, of course, I say a lot more than that.
But it's interesting because that's all true. And I was so hopeful. George, you and I discussed this not too long ago about the political accountability. I feel like with no consequences and no political push for accountability on the people that did lie to us, the people that did put out misinformation.
So, wait, Doc, with Texas, hold on a second, Lance. I'm sorry. With Texas, you have to go to to the medical board meeting, and they were coming after you for everything that now has come true of what you're saying. So what's their argument now going to be?
Well, they'll claim it has nothing to do with ivermectin. And so what happened was I had a patient in the hospital in Fort Worth. He was hospitalized with COVID. He was on a ventilator for a month. The wife wanted him to try ivermectin. The hospital refused. So she decided to sue the hospital, and then she found me to testify. I testified, and then to be the prescribing doctor for the ivermectin. And so she won the lawsuit, and the court ordered the hospital to give me emergency temporary privileges. I submitted 2 full applications. They denied my privileges. The lawyer went back to the judge to complain. The lawyer came back to me and said, "You're good to go. We have the green light." So I sent the nurse to the hospital with the ivermectin. She was greeted by the police and turned away. The hospital had obtained a stay on the order, which we did not know about, but she left. She did not storm the ICU. It was a very calm situation. She had it all on video. But they're saying that because the hospital did not grant me privileges, that I was a danger. And so they issued me a public reprimand over this, and I am fighting that.
What happened to this patient's husband that was in there?
Yeah, he actually made it out of the hospital, but he eventually died. He could never make a full recovery. He lost half of his body weight. And this is a father of 6, sheriff's deputy, previously healthy. You know, he should not have died.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you think about the amount of effort and money and time the hospital put into stopping when they knew that he was suffering with some consequences and maybe what they were doing wasn't fixing it. You would think they'd say, hey, look, it's not going to affect us. She'll be on the hook if something goes wrong. Go ahead and let him do it. But they couldn't do that, right? Because, of course, they were making this tremendous amount of money. I mean, a ventilator, the amount of money the hospitals made on ventilators and the protocols and the kickbacks they got from Big Pharma for making sure they were pumping everybody full of whatever the protocol was supposed to be, right? The treatment plan was supposed to be.
It's
pretty horrible.
Cruel and evil. I mean, cruel and evil. I can't even... they were talking hospice. They were saying, we're just going to let him die. Why not let him try ivermectin? Even if you don't think it's going to work. I mean, it's very easy to verify the toxicity data. That's what I did before I started prescribing it. I went to the FDA's website. I looked it all up. It's all there. There's something called the LD50, lethal dose 50. It's a benchmark number for toxicity. It tells you what amount of drug you'd have to give to kill 50% of a lab animal. And the LD50 for ivermectin is about 100 times what we were prescribing for patients with COVID. And then I did a literature search, and I tried to find examples of overdose, either intentional or accidental overdose for ivermectin. I couldn't find a single study. You do that for Tylenol, thousands of studies. So there's just absolutely no excuse. Even if you don't think it's going to work, let the patient try the medication as a last-ditch effort. And they did show in patients, even at late stages, ivermectin was found to be beneficial. And I believe it's because it has a lot of anti-inflammatory effects. It shares a lot of the same pathways as corticosteroids, but it's much safer than a steroid. But it does a lot of the same things. And I think that's why, even in the late stages, they found it to be helpful.
I have to be honest. If I was his wife, I would have snuck in there and I would have...
Well, she rubbed it on him. She pretended it was lotion.
Yeah.
And she rubbed it on his body. And I think that might be why he was able to get out.
You would think that...
One more thing, though.
Oh, no, go.
They tied up his feeding tube. They wrapped it in towels and rubber bands to prevent her from trying to sneak any into his feeding tube. That's how evil they are.
It's horrible. And you would think that with a court order...
Right.
To go in and fight for a stay, they had all the legal protection because of that court order. The only people that would have had legal liability would have been you and, of course, the courts at that point. And even the courts would have been protected. The point is, you just can't figure out why they would make such an effort when they're talking about hospice. I mean, why not let the patient make a last-ditch effort? If the family supports it and they've got a doctor that's agreeing to do it, why not just step back? And that just goes to show the evil nature of the intent of a lot of these medical organizations. And that's why a lot of times I tell people, like, look, you have to go beyond it. Now, I want to bring something up because we talk about AI in this show a lot. You asked about AI, and we were talking about books, and I've written a couple of books on AI, and I've got others coming out. AI is a double-edged sword. You have to be careful. There is medical information that isn't correct. It can give you bad advice, but I do believe it's a great place to educate yourself. If you get a determination, a medical report from a doctor, or you've got an individual in the hospital, feeding in all the documentation that the hospitals produce, getting copies of that, and looking for alternative answers. I think does have some value. I'm not saying it's the end all. I think you still have to discuss any kind of medical information coming out of AA with your doctor. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that families should protect themselves with at least taking what they're told by their doctors or medical clinics or hospitals, and they should feed it all through AI just to see what it's really saying? Because, of course, medical jargon is really difficult for the average person to get through. The vocabulary and the verbiage used, it's kind of like the law. MIT did a study on the law that said it was overly complex intentionally to kind of restrict the average person from really understanding what's going on in the legal process. They studied all criminal and civil law and said, yeah, it's overly complex. At this point, it doesn't have to be this complex, but they do it kind of as a protectionist mechanism. Do you feel like that's the same thing? And do you think AI is suitable? And maybe give people what your version is of that.
Yes. I mean, I definitely, I've used it medically. But I will say, from personal experience, I fed in an MRI image of just to see from my own back. And it made a really bad error. Like it said something was CSF fluid when it wasn't. It was, it wasn't a subtle mistake. It was like really bad. And every time, I would say almost every day, and I use AI a lot, but almost every day I find that it gives me an answer that is biased. Especially with medicine, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, any of that. I use it a lot I don't know if you've seen some of the posts where I have it create diagrams of, okay, this is how hydroxychloroquine works. And so, but then, it will do it. But I'm like, okay, you need to take out all the disclaimers that you put in there that I didn't ask you to put in there, where you're like, hydroxychloroquine has not been shown to help with COVID. I'm like, I didn't ask you to put that in my diagram. Take it out. Right. But stuff like that every day, every time I use AI, I get some kind of BS like that. So yes.
What AI are you using?
Grok.
Yeah. Sometimes it depends on what you're
use
using.
Grok, Imagine
I think AI in general, you have to use, like, if you really want information from Google, like if you want to research, let's just say in medical, and you want to see what's going on internationally, and you want to get it off of Google. If you use any other AI to scrape Google, you're not going to get it. So you have to use Gemini as an example. And there's a reason that each AI kind of in their own way, like I think for coding, Claude is still the best, Claude Code. And otherwise, if you want to do coding in Python or Rust or anything else. So each one's specific. And I do believe Grok, I'll go on the record for this. I feel like this last update to Grok, they added a bunch of maybe legal guardrails for themselves. Because I noticed lately, if I want to even create an image, if I want to create something, they'll push back on me on regular Grok, but Grok Imagine won't, as an example, not as much. Recently, I've asked it to do some things where I wanted an image of something. It said, no, we can't do that. We're not going to, I said, I'm not promoting, I'm exposing.
Wow.
And and that just happened in the last 45 days, I feel like. And I use AI every day. I'm working on a lot of different stuff with AI computer systems, automation systems. I'm even writing a book for the medical industry on how they can use AI to promote their practice. Because generally most doctors aren't good business people. Not all, some of them are, but most aren't. This is a way they can use AI to automate a lot of stuff in their own practice. So I'm working on that right now. And that'll be
Lance, I got a question for her from somebody in the chat.
Oh, please, go ahead.
They want me to ask you because somebody said vitamin D, C, and zinc and electrolytes does the same as ivermectin. Smiling.
How about that?
I
would say that vitamin D is the most common lab deficiency that I see. 75% of the people that I've tested are too low in vitamin D. So I emphasize that vitamin D needs to be looked at. I don't know if that claim is accurate or not. I definitely saw ivermectin working during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would come to see me that were on vitamins already. So
I know like DC and zinc. And what's the other one? You take it with ivermectin, it helps. What was the other one, Lance? The other thing? Oh man. DC.
Quercetin?
What is it? Yeah.
Quercetin.
Yes.
Quercetin's like hydroxychloroquine.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the Zelenko protocol, I got COVID twice. I came right through it. It made me tired, but I got it twice. First time was worse than the second, but when I took the Zelenko protocol and I took ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, I got right through it. It was like having a flu that just made me tired. The only ongoing consequence I think I've had is my sense of smell continues to be reduced.
Oh, wow.
My sense of taste somewhat continues to be reduced. Why that is, I have no idea, but it's odd when I'm cooking nowadays. I just don't, I'll cook for other people and I'm still, pretty good at, and I've always been a pretty good cook. I don't even feel motivated to eat while I'm cooking. An interesting thing. It's kind of a sidebar of that. Great if you want to be on a diet, but I don't necessarily want to be on a diet. So, all right, let's talk about what's the broader, moving forward. Let's talk about the broader medical freedom strategy. Where do you think we're at? What do you think people should be doing? Kind of give them a little bit of guidance, because I don't want to leave them with just all the, I hate to always just talk about the negative part of this. What do you think the future looks like for, broader medical freedom strategy?
Well, we're in an information war, so continuing to speak out. I have an organization called Americans for Health Freedom, and we try to promote politicians that are simply willing to state the COVID shot should be pulled off the market. To me, it's a litmus test. So few politicians are willing to state that. And so we give them free publicity. We don't give them any money. We just try to amplify their message on social media. But asking politicians to sign that pledge is helpful. We only had 4 members of Congress sign it, and 3 are no longer with us or will not be with us. So Ron Johnson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Chip Roy, and Thomas Massey have all signed the pledge. But we do have over 300 elected officials who have signed. Most of them, and state representatives, state senators, precinct chairs, school board members, all sorts of power positions. But we need to pressure. I'm very frustrated. All these people going after Fauci, with the exception of Ron Johnson, none of them will call for the COVID shots to be pulled off the market. So Rand Paul will not. Bernie Moreno will not. I mean, they all are going after Fauci. They're all against the lockdowns and the mask and the censorship. But for some reason, they're still pro-COVID shot. And they're not taking these shots anymore. They're not giving them to their children, and yet they stay quiet. They're not safe enough for them, and they're not safe enough for their children, but they're safe enough for their constituents.
Wow.
So we need to pressure them to speak up.
You got to look at how much contributions do they get from Big Pharma.
Right.
That's where it's coming from.
Connection.
Well, and maybe fear of Trump. I mean, look what happened. 3 of the 4 that signed our pledge voted out or kicked out or resigned.
Voted pledge for what? Because
my pledge to call for the COVID shots to be pulled off.
That's not why Trump kicked them out.
No, I know, but it tells you about.
Who'd you say? Massey? Who else?
Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Chip Roy, he just lost his election, and then Ron Johnson. And yeah, I don't think Trump kicked them out for that, but it kind of speaks to.
Well, Massey would go against Trump on a lot of votes, like he was against the SAVE Act, so that hurt him. Chip Roy would flip flop on stuff. I mean, no, I like Chip Roy, but he flip flop too. MTG, she's just a mess.
I love her.
She's a mess. I can't stand her.
Well, she's outspoken.
No. Because there was one point where she was backing all Patriots, and Lance don't. She was even pushing Q, like with Q people and Q stuff, and then went against it all. So she's a flip flopper. She's like a doorknob. Everybody gets a turn. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm a big fan of hers. I feel like there's so few that will sign this pledge, and there are consequences to taking a stand when nobody else will. And I'm not saying that they got kicked out because they signed the pledge, but it kind of speaks to the kind of, they don't go along to get along. And that has consequences.
That's a difficulty. There's no doubt that the get along policy has been integrated on both sides of the aisle. We're still suffering from that. I always say it's a uniparty in DC. George, let's put the cover of her book back up. I want to give her a chance to talk about the book again for a minute before she has to go, because I know she's out of time. Let's talk about that. And this is the shameless plug, Mary. So tell people where to get involved, where to follow you, how to buy the book, how to support what's going on, and how to get educated further than where they're at now. Go ahead and go for everything you got on the list.
Thank you. Yeah, it's dangerous misinformation. You can buy it off Amazon. You can buy it off Barnes and Noble. It's a short, quick read. You can read it in one day. You can take it to the beach with you. And if you don't want to read it, then send it to somebody who should. Send it to Peter Hotez or send it to Methodist Hospital. And you can follow me on X at Mary Bowden MD. I also have a Substack and YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is very measly because as you guys experience, it's hard to get any kind of traction there.
Yeah.
So, and I do have a Rumble too.
And what's your social media on X? And are you on True Social or anywhere else?
Yeah, Mary Bowden MD. And no, I'm not. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on Truth Social.
Okay. Well, Mary, first of all, thanks so much for joining us. We always enjoy having you on the show. You know, you're always welcome here. I appreciate the fact that you have always stayed to the fight. You have never not said exactly what you were going to say, and you haven't let Big Pharma or the medical industry hammer you. You continue to fight. I hope I've got my fingers crossed for you that you are successful in your fight for your medical license. It's ridiculous that you're still going through it. You would think that they would just pull back, but that's the ego of the medical industry, even with Fauci being exposed more and more every day. I guess last thing, if one thing could be fixed right now, if you could make one plea to the medical industry and to, Maha, what do you think? What would be the one plea you'd ask them to do?
Pull the COVID shots off the market. Should have been done a long time ago. We don't want any more people to get hurt. Yeah.
And I think that's a great plea for everybody out there. Follow her, buy the book, support her, do whatever you can, find her Substack. I think you'll find information you're not going to find anywhere else. She's not a yes woman, and I respect her for that. So you guys do whatever you can to support her. That's why we get the word out, right? You share this episode, take the short form, take the long form. George will be doing all of it. You know how it is, and we're not going to come after you. We want you to use the content to build your own social media, and of course, to educate your family. That's part of what this show is all about. It's educating and unifying the country. We don't kiss ass on either side of the aisle. We'll say it just like it is because it's a uniparty in D.C. You just heard a lot of the facts here on this show. So, Mary, thanks again, man. You're always amazing when you come on the show. I really appreciate everything you're doing. George, what do you got for last words for us?
You still have your practice in Texas, correct?
I do. Yep.
I mean, you want to give out your practice in case you want to get any patients, or you don't want to?
Yeah. Yeah. It's breathemd.org is my practice website.
Okay. breathemd.org. All right. It's always a pleasure, everybody. Thank you for tuning and listening. Dr. Bowden, it's always a pleasure. And listen, if you have any breaking news or stuff, we can get you on right away that day if you want. So y'all have a great day. Stay blessed. Stay frosty.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA, the future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit BlockTrustIRA.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars, your ultimate hedge against political instability and economic turmoil. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar, crafted from 0.999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. This tangible, divisible asset can come in handy even in the toughest of times. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. When facing inflation, currency devaluation, and financial meltdown, Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Secure your future today with the exclusive Silver Prepper Bar. the only silver bar on the market divisible into 3 different size pieces for maximum utility, all while fitting in your wallet. Don't leave your future to chance. Order your Silver Prepper Bars now at prepperbar.com. Silver Prepper Bars, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Order now.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on Earth, these canine units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit warriordogfoundation.org.